Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Chief.
The only thing we're going to need you to do is bring that a little bit closer. And then, good, we're good to go. Okay, floor is yours.
So, have you had a chance to look at the goals and our priorities this year?
Yes.
We really took a close look at the city's priorities as spearheaded by the mayor and the council, and we tried to match up what we're doing internally as best as possible to make sure that we get on the same page and support those citywide goals as closely as possible. Are there any questions in particular about?
Yes,
Go ahead.
I have a couple. Last year, we had talked about, and again, I see it in neighborhood policing in the priorities and the goals. Does this year's plan include, I know we've had success with having certain individuals in certain areas, not necessarily assigned permanently there. Do we have anything similar to that this year where we're trying to increase the amount of beat cops and neighborhood cops that get to know the neighborhood and,
Well, we do have the immersion program.
right?
That does help, but the way that we rotate the officers so that they see the entire city is not consistent with that.
Right.
We have, of course, our downtown area, in which that is a permanent post, and we were fortunate enough to be able to extend that to cover both a day shift and a night shift. The goal would be to replicate that program. The next step we're going to do to further that particular program is we are, through the partnership that's been formed with the Greater Salisbury Committee, a Junior Achievement, and the city, we are getting 2 students this year who will be working primarily from Beeland Park Drive through the city park, along the Riverwalk, down the center of the heart of our city and into the marina. That's going to be their patrol area. And those 2 students are going to be led by one of our police officers that we are working with to develop so that he can eventually replace one of those 2 bicycle officers on a permanent basis. So we're looking at a 12-week program for the officer, a 10-week program for the students. The officer has done a tremendous amount of research. He's prepared to step into this new leadership role. And what we're doing is we're really growing our agency, you know, at the teenage level at this point and moving it forward. The officer himself is very excited about the program. Next year, we hope to get 2 more students and an additional officer so that we can go shift work.
High school students?
They are.
Okay.
They are high school students. Yes, sir.
Who live in the area where they're
They
going to?
do. Well, I don't know if both of them live in that area, but they have an interest in law enforcement. I believe that the 2 candidates we have up first for interview are both minorities, and they are doing well in school. They're not, you know, they're not in trouble. They're not your A students, but they are the typical kind of pre-candidate that we would like to see and make that connection with. So the idea is, and for it would be almost seasonal work for this group, and then we would, you know, extend it, grow it next year to accommodate another officer and another set of students.
So are they community policing or?
They're going to be working on community policing. Now, you know, because they're teenagers, they're not going to be able to do a number of the things, but for example, we'll have them write out a parking ticket, and then the officer will sign it. So that alleviates the problem of calling them back out of school to attend court. We'll have them run radar. We'll have them copy down license plates and then create a form letter to send out to that violator, the registered violator, and say, you know, your vehicle was seen, observed traveling in excess of so many miles per hour at this location at this time. And so we're going to be working on a number of platforms like that to get them plugged into this industry and also look at their city a little differently.
Good.
Okay.
Now, is that going to, this is a loaded question, but I'll ask it anyway.
Sure.
If you had additional personnel, could the plan be accelerated?
It could be. It could be. So in this budget this year, for the first time, in many, 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 many years, you're going to see cadet positions. Now
Yeah.
those are for your high school graduates. So the goal is this year to cultivate this pipeline, to get these students in the mindset of remembering what they need to do in order to successfully obtain a position with the police department. So narcotics, behavior, decent grades, crime. Those are all big-ticket priority issues with us. And if we can just expose them to the industry at this age when they're teenagers, then we can move them up to the next level, which is our cadet program. And that is a program to accommodate individuals that have graduated high school and are not quite, 21 years old yet. So that is the next gap. We requested funding for that position. We took one of our full-time frozen positions and converted that into 2 full-time cadet positions. So really, it's going to be full-time work for these individuals.
Kind of like a PSO in
And it's kind of like the safety officer aspect of it. So they'll be doing a lot of the same work, and then we'll get a look at them. They'll get a look at us. They'll start from really, a great position, and then hopefully they'll stay with us, and we can continue the process.
It's like an intern position.
It is.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
paid
great.
intern. We have listed that at $22,000 a year, and for an individual just coming out of high school.
That's not bad.
It's not bad, and especially if this is your chosen field, or if it's something that you're exploring, you don't know if municipal policing is something you really want to be a part of, then this will let you know
Yeah.
without making that serious commitment.
That's great.
So we feel it's a win for us, we feel it's a win for our community, and it's just another step forward. Circling back to that community policing aspect, even though we don't have the manpower to really assign permanent officers to permanent neighborhoods, we're still very much engaged in having our officers engage in the 10 community meetings, of course, getting involved in different events throughout the city, and participating with our youth, kind of, really pushing forward that mentorship process, and just connecting them better. It doesn't really matter what sector they're working. If they're working a particular sector, we have a community event, they attend.
I also want to thank you for your officers participating in the LAX program. at the
Yeah, that's
playground.
fantastic.
I think, and I hope that's something we can commit on a permanent basis, because I believe the rewards of that as a continued program are going to, long-term, I think it's just going to be invaluable.
So it's incredible. Judge Massarello, over a year ago, had this idea, and the backing he's been able to garner for it has been absolutely outstanding. We have everything that is Falcon Youth Sports. We have a lot of support from them and what they've been able to accomplish in their short tenure. And we are taking our cues from them. They've been very, very helpful for us in structure, equipment, support. We also have a realization here in Wycomico County in our school system that really Parkside and Bennett are the 2 powerhouses. And Y High, when it comes to lacrosse, they can't compete. So we intentionally picked Doverdale because of the fledgling gang issues that we were having over there, because you have a lot of full-time residents there, long-term, who've been there for many, many years and wanted to see something different. We had tremendous success when we rolled out the High Point model, the crime reduction model there. So we felt it was perfect for us to re-engage that whole segment. And just as we saw before, they were very, very receptive and very interested in the program. The other piece of that is you've got coaches from Bennett, from Parkside, and from Y High who are all becoming invested in this program. Because really what Falcons and what all those high school level coaches want to see is they want to see this area become a lacrosse area. That game in particular, and whether it's boys or girls at this age level, that game teaches you so much about leadership, about civility, about sportsmanship, about community, about what it means to be dedicated, about how to support each other when you're out there. You know, and especially in different positions like the goalie position, which is always so tough. You know, and this particular sport is really built to ingrain in our kids what those really hot ticket items are all about.
Yep.
So we're grateful for the opportunity. And
Yep.
all we need to do is show up, and a lot of our officers have never played before. But you know what? The kids have never played before, so they
Right.
just
They're
enjoy tossing the
learning,
ball
yeah.
around.
That's
Yeah.
great.
What a great city to do it in, because
It's-
we have a
it's perfect.
university that has an incredible program as well.
So,
Well, they
yeah,
got
yep,
recognized.
we did. We got some
2 weeks
support from
ago.
them already.
It was
Um,
amazing.
Yep. Kids all got to go out on the field, and
Yeah,
it was
cool.
incredible.
Saw that, yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions on the goals or priorities? Okay, good. All right, let's get to the overall detail. And again, we're gonna go through this, and if you have questions that you've noticed or come up that you see, then we'll ask those particular questions. I guess page 81 is where we'll start. Okay. What was that?
Time's up.
Yeah, no, not that easy, no.
Just thought I'd check.
How do you want to do this? You want to give the overall, or how do you?
I'm not sure what you are.
I'm just looking at, maybe we can just get right into the questions.
Well, our total budget, because I noticed you've got animal control here, our total budget for the agency is approximately 12 million. So
Right.
just in this area alone, what you're seeing, and it's gone, sorry, that's okay. What you're seeing, we have two full-time animal control officers, and we asked for a, actually, we submitted level funding from the year prior, and then we also cut 4%. I don't know if that's completely reflective of that, so I haven't seen, this is the first time I've seen this final draft. But the operating expenses, you can see up there, just shy of $100,000, and then with our two, we just had one start about 4.5 weeks ago. So she's brand new and seems to be adjusting well.
So we're gonna have 3 animal control officers?
No, just two.
Oh, just 2?
I'm on a
We,
different, I'm on a different page.
okay. We had,
Is 80, do you have 81 there? There you go. That's the one. Let's start with that one. That's the overall.
okay, so
Right.
$12 million budget.
There you go. Now
Correct.
okay.
You can see where most of that goes to personnel.
Personnel services. Now,
Correct.
those are the positions that you refer to, generally?
Yes, those are your sworn and your non-sworn.
Yeah,
So those are every police officer and then every civilian individual that we have in support of the police function.
okay. And that includes the 2%, annual 2%, right?
Yes, it
Okay.
does.
All right. And then the operating expenses are going down by a small amount from the projected 2017.
Yes.
It also reflects the pay plan, a new pay plan for the police.
Okay. So there is a new, is that
Yes,
the
there
new
is.
step thing?
Yes.
All right, and we're going to cover that, we can cover that whenever, because we were talking about that with the Personnel Committee this morning. Okay.
So,
Is the operating expenses realistic based on,
You know, because of various salary increases that we've had over the years, overtime is always the issue. Our overtime, though, has been consistent for the past 5 years. Is that a proper statement?
Yes.
And so it is not uncommon for us to come back and request additional overtime funding. Now, one of the things that we have not done over the past, I think, 2 years is we have not had the festival. And that is going to be some extra funding that we're going to need to support that, because normally what we do And from what I understand with the meetings that have been ongoing, it's going to be very similar in nature. The footprint's going to be the same, the size is anticipated to be the same or a little bit bigger. So you're looking at approximately 2 full squads of individuals who are off shift, working those days that we're here in the city with the festival. So that right off the bat, I know it's wonderful that we got it back this year. Certainly something that we didn't plan for, but definitely needed. And that's just an example of an area that we would have to absorb
Right.
and was not necessarily planned for.
Right, right. Well, I think we've been flexible in the past if those
Absolutely.
issues come up. we can-
Absolutely. I think, when you look at what it is that we're trying to accomplish as a city, not just a police department, but how we're trying to problem solve, how we're trying to shift and adjust to the social climate, whatever that happens to dictate, the city's been more than flexible in helping us achieve those goals.
The question that always comes up, capital outlay in terms of units. Does this keep us on the schedule? We talked about a rotating schedule to make sure that our vehicles were,
We had to cut back we requested 10 this year, and we cut back 2 in order to facilitate the scale adjustment that we made, as that went into it. This does keep us, does keep pace with that schedule. So we're not necessarily out of the ballpark. I know last year, we didn't purchase any vehicles to help with the citywide funding issue that we had. But we still had new vehicles coming in, so we didn't feel that crunch.
Thought we approved 3 CID vehicles last year.
That,
not patrol vehicles.
yeah, not
but-
patrol vehicles,
Yeah, okay.
which is not even close. That's something completely different. So those don't, we've shifted away from the police package for admin and detectives because they're not operating the same tempo.
right?
So it's not 24/7 use, it's not a hot seat. We looked more towards gas mileage and safety,
Yeah,
which really got us in a better place with our finances. So as far as the patrol units go themselves, no, we did not purchase, we forego the option we had, and which we completely agreed with and actually pushed for, was that we forego purchasing for the year, because we already had vehicles that had not even arrived yet. So we kept on schedule fairly close.
so if you take the ones, because I'm still a little
Sure.
confused. Do we have still anything that's coming?
No, we've gotten them all in now. They're
So,
here.
Okay, so what are we short if we took out the 2?
So we were still, so the ones that have finally arrived
Yeah,
were purchased out of the previous cycle,
Right,
not
right.
for FY17.
because it takes that long for them to
It
get.
does. It does. And we've tried different purchasing options. So we've gone from, let's purchase a vehicle from this vendor, let's purchase electronics from this vendor, let's purchase striping from this vendor, and let's find a 4th vendor to put it all together for us too. Let's get a one-stop shop done. And it still takes an incredibly long time, because one of the things that we found is that how we purchase, so we are on a fiscal cycle versus an annual cycle, and by the time we get into the purchasing process, which literally is the first week in July, we're already struggling to get what's left, because we've been basically beat out. Which, right now, with our schedule the way it is, we're doing okay. The goal this year was to try to start a take-home car program. So not only did we want to catch up a little bit, but we also wanted to institute a take-home car program, which would take us several years to really accommodate everybody. And the idea was to make them vehicles that were
Visible.
24/7 use. So in other
Right.
words, that was your vehicle.
Yeah.
It's already up and running with a computer. All you need to do is report to work and you're good to go. You don't have to change cars. Our current take-home car policy is we use the oldest vehicles that are still functional and safe, but we harvest everything in them. And if it's still usable, we place them into a newer vehicle. And that is a take-home car program. It gets the cars in, it gets a marked
Neighborhood.
unit into the neighborhood,
And
which
you
is what you
prioritize
want.
the neighborhoods, I would assume?
No, what we do is by seniority. and by time when you place your request in. So first, we establish who within the agency is living in the city,
Gotcha.
and then in that group, who's most senior. We also try to prioritize our TAC team members as well. And so what we've been working with them is, in addition to those qualifiers, we also try to get as much equipment back in there so it is a fully functional. If they need to respond for a tactical call-out, they've got as much equipment as possible in there. Instead of having to switch over vehicles, which is most of our take-home car program exists today. They have to park it and then switch over into a functional vehicle. Now we're trying to get functional vehicles.
So to circle back to the original question, we're okay in terms of the cycling.
Yes, we are.
We just need to resolve that huge issue of delivery, if there's a way.
If there's a way.
Because that would help us in terms of planning and also.
Correct. Correct.
So
And
it
we,
isn't a question of if we added 2 more vehicles or a vehicle in here, because you couldn't get it anyway, probably in the,
we've actually looked at purchasing with other municipalities to help facilitate that as well. So, you know, we just keep coming back to the fact that we are a fiscal budget, and we are already well into the annual budget purchasing process by that time.
did you have the same issue up north?
No, we were annual, so
Oh.
we did not. So the contracts that we could take advantage of, that we could partner with, you know, it was an annual budget, and we were just part of that.
Okay.
So is there a way that, and I guess it's the time of year that we're jumping on it in July.
Right.
When
we
people
really
in
need to be
January.
jumping on it in January.
We need to jump on it in December, really,
December.
to get the new,
So-
to get it, yeah, yeah.
I mean, does it hurt us a few months to hold off until December to start doing it then, spending the money then?
Well,
instead of July?
even if we spend it then, you're still looking, because it'll come, you know,
Yeah.
around springtime,
Springtime.
which, you know, whether we start the process now
It's
and
the
stay on
pipeline.
top of it, or
Yeah.
starting in December and stay on top of it, it's still gonna arrive a couple
It
months.
seems like this is the one, we always, I mean, from the day I came on,
Sure.
we were struggling with this the
Mhm.
whole time.
Yeah,
And it doesn't sound like it's a good solution.
I guess it's just.
But you're okay with what you got right now?
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
Any other questions on the overall?
And we're also, I need to add, we're also shifting from the cruiser style to the Ford Explorer, which is, we've had a number of officers test drive them. As far as operational space in that interior cabin, worlds of difference for the officers. And we're watching, now that these vehicles are becoming more and more fuel efficient, we're watching other agencies do the same. They're able to get, of course, all of the gear in. They're able to accommodate officers of various sizes. And with the fuel efficiency the way it is now, there's really no reason not to.
And I think it's also guests in the back too, it's a little, sometimes more accommodating as well.
It is easier. The difference that we're looking at right now is the height, which is always a problem.
right.
The height from the actual,
Yep,
ground up
to the
in.
first
So
step.
that's an issue, but as far as actually having room to negotiate in the back is a world of difference as well. But it seems that this is where the industry is trending right now. It's higher up, so it is a little bit safer on impact, and
And they're also much better, I guess, in all weather.
they are, and we struggle. We're actually very fortunate because we get to use vehicles from fire and public works to help us accommodate in those foul weather days, and we do have a number of them, whether it's warm or cold. Yeah, the four-wheel drive is just essential for us.
Last question I have is body cameras. Where are we?
As far as,
Body, have we gotten them in, have we
Oh,
gone
yes.
through training?
oh yes.
How many are we, where are we in the staff,
So we,
Definitely.
we have approximately 60 uniform officers on patrol at any given time, or that are available for patrol. And then the remainder are assigned to different task forces or different levels of administration or detective division. So what we did was we intentionally looked to equip every police officer, every patrol officer with a camera, and we have done that. What we are seeing now is the price for storage, and that is something that
We talked about.
every
We talked
agency
about
is
that last
struggling
year.
with, right?
Yeah.
It's tremendous. So
It's a lot of data.
it is a lot of data, and we have, I believe our retention is 120 days, and so you would think that unless it's tagged, you know, you would constantly be freeing up that space, but it's an incremental increase on our part, because as we come across more instances that need to be saved, you know, that number does not
Builds.
decrease. So it does build, and it does consume a lot of data, and it is very expensive.
How long I want to ask a question. How long did you say you store
120,
120
mhm,
days?
yes.
And that's.
Unless they're tagged,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's storing it on the system provided by the vendor.
right, that
Correct.
goes to the cloud.
So and I guess maybe when we're tagging videos, we have the option to use our own storage on site. Or
Well-
is that saved there?
That's saved there, so that goes into a special category. Additionally, if it's needed for a case, we're also preparing 3 separate discs,
Yeah,
which is a minor expense that we knew. Now we've got personnel trained up, we've got our non-sworn, our civilian support staff now trained up to make those copies for prosecution, defense, and for the case file as well. But yeah, it does store them in a special area.
Do we have special officers who go in and remove those, I guess the film for the cameras?
it's probably
Probably
automatic.
automatic or
Yeah,
the
you can,
storage?
right, ours comes with an auditing system,
Okay.
so we can't do anything to it without
It's
a,
audited by-
without a tag,
Okay.
without a, you know, an ID that's specifically related to a particular officer. So even if the officer views it, the system is an automated system where it timestamps
That's what
that
I wanna
review.
know. The system.
Good.
Right, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we
yeah, okay,
can't,
that's
yeah,
all.
the deletion doesn't happen on site.
So- okay.
It's an automatic,
It's automatic. Okay.
correct, we don't,
So if the incident doesn't warrant something at the time and then they don't tag it, it gets,
Yeah, but that's what I'm
Wiped
saying.
out.
Did we have somebody doing it, or was it a
yeah.
company that does it?
right, that's just an automatic cutoff.
We had, when we first started this discussion several years ago, we all had trepidation. The unknown, we didn't, you know, remember we had one camera in and tried that. And
Sure.
In your opinion, 1 to 4, 4 being the highest, what's your satisfaction rate with?
With the actual camera itself?
I mean, the system, the whole package.
Probably a 3. I love the fact
Oh,
that
okay.
we're able to record, but I think that we're kind of at the mercy of the industry right now is when, you know, the pricing really for a municipality that's really working on transparency, that's really working on elevating the status of the profession, that's really working on serving the community. It's an expensive proposition. Is it the
Yeah.
right thing to do? Yes. You know, is it helpful for the officers? Is it helpful for the citizens? Yes, absolutely. And like I said, it is elevating everything, not just the profession, but the service and the interaction and how we are perceived. But the expense is astronomical.
Well, you know, if you have something that's beneficial and enhances our safety and protection,
Well, I think
Comes with
we're
the
fortunate
territory.
here because there's a commitment to that here, where there are numerous municipalities
oh
across the
yeah, I
country that
hear
have
it
shut
when I go to
down.
the legislative committee that,
Yeah, they
you know,
have.
there's smaller sized communities. They struggle, 'cause they can't afford it.
Can't.
Right.
Well, I mean, on the data storage part, I mean, would it maybe something to look into if we have the ability to tag some of the videos, would it be any cost savings if we purchased our own hardware and saved the long-term
That's
saving
a lot
the
of
storage
money.
on our own?
Yeah, you're talking about a
You're
lot of
talking
server
about
space.
A lot of storage space.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
And
why
then
the cloud,
backup space for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot of money.
yeah.
Now,
it's-
I think that would be a better question maybe for Bill Garrett.
Yeah, we'll ask Bill when he
Okay.
comes in, but I think Bill, the last time we talked about it, the cloud was the way, we don't want to get involved in trying to
On our
store
own.
it.
And initially, we were not gonna do the cloud, you know.
Right,
We were worried
Right,
about
we were
security.
right.
Something that's
Yeah.
could be evidence.
Yeah, but that's not my lane, so I would defer
Yeah.
to my colleague.
okay, that's good.
Yeah.
We will do that, I have notes, so. Okay, let's move on. Communications, is that where we are? Yes. Yeah, we read
Well, I think the biggest thing here is that we're finally getting upgraded,
Yeah.
connecting, you know, with the county, while they do their upgrade, which truly needs to happen in our region. There's so many dead zones and where you're just completely out of range within our city limits, where you simply can't communicate, not only with each other, but, you know, back at headquarters. So that upgrade is quite expensive. Like I said, we're partnering with the county on that, so that's kind of easing the burden there for the long term. And that is moving along. As far as our internal operations, you know, I think that we've got, once again, we're fortunate enough to have some older, more stable, more seasoned communicators in there. And we've got a lot of young dispatchers that we're working on. So that's why you see up there that you know, the customer service, the officer safety, when you're working inside those walls in there and you really don't see daylight, you have a tendency to forget what it is, the calls that you're dispatching, who you're dispatching those calls, and what the environment is out there. So we've taken advantage of some online training, which has been helpful. We've plugged into some nationally recognized training systems that we're staying on top of for our personnel to make sure that we can get the job done. I mean, in a lot of cases, as you well know, that's usually the first impression that anyone gets when they reach out for
Absolutely.
the first time, you know.
Sets the tone for the whole
It does,
call.
it does.
Would,
What-
oh, sorry, go ahead. Oh,
Target, before we get off the communications with the county, what's the target date? Do you know? I don't remember it, but I don't know if it's been revised either.
It has been revised,
Pushed up or
pushed back.
I know, I'm
I think
just
they've
being
got some
sarcastic.
environmental issues going on right now,
Yeah.
actually, with a couple of the towers, which is slowing things down a little bit. We've got some nesting ospreys, so we'll be able to reevaluate in June whether or not those osprey nests are actually viable. So there's a potential, if they are viable, that we may be pushing back to August for the actual build until the fledglings are hatched and ready to go. As you know, ospreys are, I believe they're endangered, is that correct? To some extent, or maybe they're on a subcategory of the endangered list, so.
Yeah, you can't do anything with them.
Correct, so,
Like
and they had been maintaining the tower sites, but,
Okay,
these things happen, so.
yep.
So we have 14 positions in the communications department, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there any vacancies currently?
Yes, in our supervisor positions, we have vacancies.
Okay, so and you have anybody
We have,
soon that's going to be retiring that you know of?
No.
Or no?
we have one, I'm sorry, I misspoke. We have one individual who is eligible to retire. I believe he becomes eligible within the next 6 months or so. That doesn't mean that he will go, but he is thinking about it.
Okay.
And then we've got some individuals who are in the pipeline for consideration for supervisor.
Okay, so there's some mobility in there?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
with our dispatchers, we developed a three-tiered system.
Okay.
So what we did for them several years ago, back in 2012, I believe it was we established kind of your entry level with so many years of experience. And then if you have good evaluations and your training is consistent, then, you move into this next economic bracket within that unit. And then for individuals with in excess of, I think it's 15 years, there's a separate step that you can take. So we've built a nice career ladder into the communication system for them.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't realize, you know, how important that role is, and it's a very, with our department, it's a very busy job. When you have 50,000 plus calls for service a year, a lot of phone calls coming in and out of the police
It
department.
is, a lot of phone calls, a lot of radio traffic, and that's not to say, I mean, we also monitor, thankfully, we're connected, you know, to SU, Salisbury University Police Department via a direct line, and then we have the fire service that we monitor that site as well. So it's not only just the public
Yeah.
and our officers,
It's a lot
Yeah.
of multitasking.
a lot of connectivity, absolutely.
Yeah, the dead spots concern me.
Yeah, yeah, and
We
it's.
can't have that.
Well,
That's-
it's going to grow as we continue to grow as a city, you know,
Yeah.
with the annexation.
Yeah.
So in order to provide for that, you've got to make this investment now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Animal control.
So I think we spoke about that. And we also spoke about it a little bit last night with their vehicles.
Any questions from anybody on that? Okay, that's good.
Okay, the only other questions I have as far as sworn position
Yep.
staffing, so we have 102 positions. How many, you said we had, how many frozen positions do we have?
We
That's in
had-
addition to the 102, correct?
No.
Or is that included in the 100?
Inclusive.
Inclusive.
That's
okay.
correct. So there were 4 of those 102 that were frozen.
Mhm.
2 of them were recently unfrozen because we were successful in our Department of Justice grant application. So we're working on hiring individuals for that. And with this particular grant, it's half paid for by the federal level and then half paid for by the municipal level. And
Um,
then I believe what
It's
happened.
worth noting that we cut one, traded it for 2 cadets.
Correct. So
Correct.
one
So-
of those 4 frozen has also been,
No, in addition to those 4, one position got cut. That's,
so one of the frozen positions became, we turned that into
Turn
the
it
2
to
cadet.
cadet
Correct.
positions, right. And then, so how many
Right. No.
available positions do we have?
as far as the budget is concerned, 4 got frozen, and 1 got, in addition to those 4 frozen, 1 was removed and replaced with 2 cadets.
Okay. Okay.
So,
How many available positions do we have, open positions?
I believe we have 11.
11?
Is
We
that-
have,
Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I was.
Open.
I'm not familiar with, yeah, with.
how many do we have in the academy or hiring pipeline?
So we have 2 police officers, 2 police officer recruits in the academy right now.
Okay,
We started out with 3 this year. Now we are down to 2. And then we have 1 police officer from Virginia who is going through comparative compliance
okay.
at the academy.
And then how many do we have that are approaching retirement? Or that could retire or are planning on?
We have 2 that are in the drop right now, and we have 1 potentially going into the drop shortly.
One of the things that came up this morning, which I think needs to be looked at, and we're gonna bring it up. Actually, I've already talked to the mayor a little bit about it during a break, but, the promotion system and the way the pay grades work out, there seems to be some inequity in there, where actually a guy that gets promoted, who's got 5 or 10 years in, by being promoted, and unless the step changes, the current way that it happens, they're actually not making physically less, but they've gone backwards in terms of their step.
I would have to take a look at that.
Okay.
Because we, back in 2012, when when the admin and the council gave us $650,000, we were able to change a lot of that. There was a tremendous amount of just that inequity. In addition to that, you would have individuals who, depending on how they were hired, and what I mean by that is, they were hired with certain incentives, economic incentives, which continued to attach to their salary. So that would make a difference in what they were making overall compared to people that actually started here and stayed here with us throughout their entire tenure. You had individuals that were getting into promotion slots that were jumping way over salary-wise individuals that had been there.
Right, and that's one of the issues.
So a large portion of that was corrected. And in fact, even after that economic piece was corrected as best we could at that time with that money, just to show you how far everything was off, even after that, we were able to successfully work with the city. And when we had made promotions and we saw that was going to happen again, within a specific supervisory bracket, we were able to make corrections and move everybody up, to equalize that at the minimum. But as far as the specifics, I would have to
I think we need to go back and look at that.
take a look at
I
that.
think maybe one of the things, maybe when you're referring to like some of the patrol guys, so once they hit a 10-year mark, I think, what we're looking for is maybe a position at that 10-year mark and then a position at the 15, there was a couple years, I think, that were in there where they're not getting the same money as someone who's been there for 4 or 5 years. I think that was kind of the concern on some of that.
Yeah, and I think that if we should just look and see if the policy, the way that it was set up, because you're correct, was the
Yeah.
adjustment we made, if it's being followed.
Yeah,
That's what we need
I
to.
think that's some of
Well, I
the,
think that when you hear the actual presentation that I'm about to make concerning the pay scale, you'll see where a lot of that has been corrected.
Okay,
okay.
We corrected a vast majority of it.
okay. Okay.
So, you want to get into the
Yes,
pay scale?
Yeah, let's go.
Page is that, that's,
What we were tasked with and what we had been looking at
If
for,
we could just wait till we get there, please. What page are we on?
we will be going to, hold on, page 186, is that correct?
Okay. There was, I just, this is a new way of putting a book together, so it was not exactly clear what all of this was last night at some ungodly type owl. That was after Mr. Boda had stopped texting me.
Well, I was up that late too,
I
so.
understand the mid, and the max. I understand all that, but it reminded me a little bit of the 5 pages of fire department, flow chart, and after the 5th page, I wasn't sure who was doing what. So, I guess my question is there a pay raise here?
yes.
Okay, well, it doesn't
Yes.
say that anywhere in this book.
Okay, and I
Well,
will,
we just went
I-
over, we
Well, understand that, but it doesn't say it anywhere in this book. There's been nothing
I
said
understand.
publicly. There is a pay raise for police officers.
Yes,
Can
there
you tell us
is.
how much that is?
I can. So you have me at a disadvantage, I don't know what you're looking at, but I will go over,
185 is where I am.
again, I don't have that, but I will explain the raise. So, what we looked at was building career ladders, and then we also looked at the salaries as compared to, in particular, Maryland State Police and Wycomico County Sheriffs. The county is attempting to reach Maryland State Police. Now, we know, I don't think you'd find anybody that would argue differently, is that as a municipal entity, when compared to a state entity, you're talking complete different economic pictures. However, when we looked at where we were, we had made some tremendous progress in 2012. There's no doubt. No one can ever argue that we didn't. But this was our opportunity to make another adjustment to get us closer to fixing some of the problems that we experienced, to develop a ladder, a career ladder within basically the patrol ranks themselves, and then also get at least pointed in a direction where we were moving towards the salaries of our comparison other. Yes? You had your hand raised? No?
Sorry,
Okay, my apologies.
I was stretching.
Okay, so if we start out with the recruit, as you can see, I don't know if you have the cadet, that's the $22,000
Yes,
salary? Okay,
we
so
do.
that's, so,
Well, it says 39.26 here.
right, this is
Cadet
the
slash blue
actual,
shirt.
that's the actual blue shirt, that's the police recruit.
Okay.
That is the starting salary. And then when they finish the academy, they go to 44. So that initial entry while you're in the academy is 39,026. You go to police officer at 44,192, and then you move to the next step, step 2, which is 46, and then step 3, 47. At the start of your 4th year, and we were able to do this in the 2012 adjustment, we created police officer first class, which is 52. For the next step in the career ladder, we were able to create this year a senior police officer, which is actually the completion of your 10th year of service. Okay? And that puts you up at 56,980. And then you continue along in the step process. At the completion of your 17th year, if you have not tested, and we do have individuals that are not interested in taking on the role of leadership and supervision. So if you remain a police officer, and we have a lot of individuals who enjoy the work they do, then you can, assuming that you have proper, good evaluations, and you're recommended to move, you can then move to master police officer. These two specific, actually, police officer first class, senior, and master, all kind of mirror a similar structure with the state police. And whether it's Maryland or Delaware, it's a similar type structure. So you could see where the scale goes to 61 and then travels on out from there, assuming the percentage increase annually. Your first supervisory rank would be corporal, and that one starts at 64,450, and then it moves forward from there. If you're eligible, and we do not have any individuals eligible now at this time for senior corporal, you would then move up to that after, I believe it's 15 years is what we had established for that. So again, you know, you can, we don't have anybody in that rank. This particular agency, considering the age of it, you could conceivably have folks that never move beyond that rank, depending on when they were hired, when they tested, and who's retiring at the other ranks that are above corporal. So we felt it was important to build out a career ladder for that position as well.
Where would that start?
That would start, I actually don't have that. That would start closer to the sergeant, which starts at about 71. If you can see where that is, we don't want to go over, we don't want to overshoot
Right.
that, but we want to get it as close as possible without going over. And I'll explain the importance of that in just a moment. And then, of course, we just went with the lieutenant, the captains, and on down from there. Specifically getting to the amount of increases that we're seeing. So if we were to just take an individual with 1 year on, we were looking at a 4.6% increase from the current salary to the proposed salary. So there's a snapshot of what you can expect some of those increases to be. If you
Can I
look...
interrupt for a second?
Yes, sir?
That includes the 2% automatic?
Yes, sir, it does.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So it's 2% which was
is
for
the annual,
everybody.
everybody, and then
Another
2.6.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. For those PFCs, and, you know, you have some individuals, for Sherman, for example, I'll name him, because he is our lateral from Virginia. So he's going through comparative compliance, he gets $39,000 a year. But his increase would not be, his increase is actually fairly substantial, because he's actually going up almost $5,000 to get him where he needs to be as of this new pay increase. And so that's a little bit more than the remainder of his colleagues,
is he
because he is a
going?
lateral. He would then go up to, let's see. Oh, he would go up to 44, but he's on the current pay scale, not this one right now with the 2% increase. So he starts out even lower, but, you know, to catch up to where the new pay scale is, his increase is even more. So he goes into the regular police officer. He does not become eligible to become PFC until he's got 3 years of service with
Gotcha.
us. So our PFCs, most of them would enjoy approximately a 5.5% increase. When we get into the senior police officer, in some cases, you're looking at anywhere from 6 to, almost 7% to 10% to get them on the new track. On the new track, on the new pay scale, from where they are today. For the
And that new track, 2012 is when their infusion of money was there. Then there was another new pay scale that Mr. Stevenson had gotten approved. So that was what year, Keith? I can't even remember, there's so
Yeah, I'm
many
not
names of them over
sure.
the years that I forget the names of them after
Are you
a
talking
while.
about Evergreen?
Sounds like a rehabilitation facility. Yeah, it was Evergreen, wasn't it?
Because that one did not apply to the sworn. That one needed to adjust our civilian as the rest of the city as well.
Because they just had the,
No, I understand that, I'm just
That-
looking
that
at
was a
at the
necessary
larger-
thing for
So it
our-
was 2012 and then Evergreen, and now this one, is there a specific name for this one, or is this just
FY18.
FY18? This isn't done by a consultant, this isn't done by someone, these are just numbers somebody put in?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Comparing them to county and looking at the state police career ladder.
My questions will only be, could you tell us, has any of this helped? And that'll be after the explanation of the.
Well,
the
it's
whole-
obviously helped, because well, can I finish? Can I
Okay.
finish?
Well, I haven't said why I thought it didn't help.
Well, because you obviously are going to follow up, but I'd like to just tell you that the gentleman we had in at the Personnel Committee this morning said in fact that we only lost, if I'm misspeak, let me know, we only lost 2 people to the Maryland State Police this past year. Most of them were to the
No,
Sheriff's
Delaware State
Department.
Police, he said.
Delaware
Yeah,
State,
yeah.
That
Delaware,
was,
yeah.
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 So just to put it in perspective,
I mean, it seemed to be, Jim, the consensus from the two this morning that this is the direction we need to be in. And I think to a lot of the officers, and some of them I've talked to that have looked at this, from my conversations with them, this works because it gives them, you know, I don't want to be a lieutenant. I like road work. I like patrol work. So you have someone who's a master patrol officer who has years of experience, you know, they're just as valuable as a commander. Because those are the guys that train the new guys, that mentor the new guys, there's, how can you not compensate those guys for those years of experience? And I,
I don't
and, you know,
disagree.
and I think this gives that in that job category,
Right.
but it also gives them, when they move up, I know I'm gonna be here, I know I can go here.
I
And
don't disagree, all I'm saying is
Yeah.
that was the same thing said in 2012 when the
Yeah.
infusion, when it was the same thing when Evergreen was,
Yeah,
that we had to stop the compression. So I'm just,
yeah, I think,
I'm thinking about watching the pie
yeah,
for the city general fund
no, I,
become almost
But-
completely public
you
public
know,
safety.
in the long term, you know, I think it will minimize the, attrition, because we're gonna spend similar amount of money to hire and train new police officers who only stay here for 5 years. And then, you know, every 5 to 6 years, we've gotta go through the same thing where we lose a core group of, and some of the officers that we've lost over the past years, good officers, doing a lot of work. But when you lose that experience, then you got another group, you gotta start all over with.
You know, I'm in
And-
teaching.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
It's
It's
exact
the same
way.
thing, and I mean, it's, you know, so we're trying to find a way
I
to,
never, as a teacher,
Yeah.
when we lose, 40% of new hires every year, no one ever comes back and says, let's adjust this salary schedule in order to
well,
stop that.
some of it, I mean, in any profession, you get someone, whether it's
I guess
corrections,
my
they go
question
in,
is
they
how many
quit the same day they
positions are
start.
still open? How many, we've discussed the salary savings every year and use that to do police communications or the big communications by this time. Is it having any effect on us not being down 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 officers? That, for people who are waiting for police officers in neighborhoods,
So,
I mean, I don't know, do we have a reduction in the number of open positions that we have? Has any of this from 2012 to today had a significant effect on?
sure, it did. It did initially, and I think we were all in agreement that we had to keep tabs on it. One of the big factors, and a lot of our personnel are looking right now, which is not something that we have direct control over, we can only affect it through this mechanism here, is the collective bargaining that Wycomico County Sheriff's Office now has. So they're looking at that, and they're seeing guaranteed raises for 5 years versus what our process is, which is very, very different. You know, and we have a great working relationship with our mayor and with our city council, and so we're able to be successful and get these things done for our personnel. But I think something that we all recognize but really did not address from 2012 forward, even though we said it needed to be done, was we needed to stay on top of it. And so for a while, we saw the stopgap happen, and now, you know, you're starting to see that slip back because folks are looking at collective bargaining agreements, quite frankly. That does have an impact.
My question was, how many open, has that number gone up
So-
or gone down over the course of these years of this,
I
quite
think
frankly,
it went
huge
down.
infusion of money?
It went down initially,
Uh-huh.
and now we're seeing it creep back up again. But, you know, I mean, I think it speaks to a larger question that maybe you, a larger statement that you haven't, that we haven't broached yet, is there are other things that, you know, also impact, whether retention issues.
Right.
This is a big ticket item, and it will make a big impact, but certainly, I would have to agree with you that there are other issues that we can use to address retention. And to address your initial question is yes, it has made an impact.
So this particular plan isn't just based on a particular percentage, it's also
It's
based
not.
on particular ranks
Career
Being
ladders,
career
yes,
ladders.
yes.
being given different percentages than other places on there, because I think that was a concern before, was that the low came up, we did this also with educators as well, the low came up in order to get people in, there was the mid people who had been here, and we're sort of stuck in a $700 a year
Right,
raise.
right, right.
Which, and then there were ones up at the top to give
Yes.
proper credit for the number of years of service for the people who were in the command staff.
This reduces the number of outliers we have, definitely. Definitely does. It closes those gaps.
Now, I know the mayor has committed to several years in succession of percentage increases. And we had that discussion in here about how we were gonna try and do that, how we couldn't guarantee it. But does that alleviate the need for collective bargaining, or, because I mean, I didn't bring it up. You did. So my question is
Well,
does-
it's out there. I mean, whether or not we want to discuss it, it's happening. So I think that it does, and I think the percentage increase, which actually, if you look at it, it's 2.25%, not just the flat 2. So what that does is that gets us closer to our comparison others a little bit faster. I unfortunately, and I apologize for this, I don't know when that intersection happens on our annual, if we were to look at the calendar years. I
Right.
don't know when that intersection happens, but I know with the 2.25% every year, assuming that we can sustain it as a municipality, I know that gets us there much faster, just by adding that little 0.25%, and it does. So in discussing it with the members of the Personnel Committee is, yes, this does address the issue of collective bargaining for them. Of course, they're looking for that guarantee. We've told them there are no such guarantees out there, but what you do have is a commitment of a dedicated group of individuals that understand the value that they bring to the table every day.
So, in looking at the goals, all the way back at the beginning last night, does any of this have to do with the mounted patrol, the safe streets unit? I'm gonna put it to you this way. I can sell it if I can say, in the grocery store, we're gonna get the mounted patrol back and you can get the safe
Well,
streets unit back,
and all-
because I
and all-
can't get into compression on Sixth Step at Corporal.
We
That's
haven't
not gonna-
discussed compression at all today, and actually, the mounted patrol, we did our research on that. I think it would be invaluable, I think you would too, to have that here in our city. I mean, it's needed, definitely, for a host of reasons. Look at the city that we're becoming. So it pairs so nicely with our goals, our overall goals. But at 109,000, just to start up, and it wouldn't be that much for succeeding years, okay? But we have to prioritize first personnel. We have to. We can get there. That's an achievable goal, but we're not going to do it in this fiscal budget. We'd love to be able to do it. That would just be such a shot in the arm for our neighborhoods and for our officers.
So I only have really one more question. How many positions do we have open? What is the average in past fiscal year, 16, or 17? How long are they staying open? What do the classes look like in the academy? I know how long it takes to come out of there, so I will not complain about that as I've done in years past, because nothing you or I can do about that.
It's a 6-month ticket right there,
Yeah. But what does that mean for neighborhoods who are looking for people on patrol?
Well, right now, and again, we just kind of went over this a little bit this
Yeah,
morning.
we went over
So it looks
the
like we have
hours.
11 vacancies. No, I mean, I'm talking even prior to this, just kind of back and forth with Keith. It looks like 11 vacancies right now. And certainly, when we go to job fairs, when we are out on recruitment campaigns, and I don't care if we're at a military institution, if we're at a historically black college, if we're local, if we're up in New York or Jersey or down in Delaware, folks want to see what they're going to be, what their potential income is going to be. This helps tremendously, and it puts us back in the competition once again. We were there in 2012. I'm not going to argue that. It was a tremendous help, and I think you saw that in our numbers and what we were able to produce. we'll be back there again. Right now, we have 2 recruits in the academy and 1 comparative compliance, and then we are ramping up for, well, my recruiter, has high hopes of getting all 11 candidates in, but we're looking probably about 6 to 8 potential individuals to wear our uniform and our
Are
shield,
the,
beginning in July, when the
I know
academy
that Baltimore
starts.
City is starting to look at some of the rules that are keeping people out of the police academy and wondering whether or not these are antiquated. I don't know how many of ours come in and then, end up having to go out
A
for one
lot,
reason or
a
another.
lot do. We just, being part of the Maryland Training Commission, we were able to successfully bring the standard for marijuana use up to reality, finally. And that goes into effect in July 1. So that's going to help tremendously. And certainly there are other aspects of our hiring standards that as a state, we'll be looking at. But yes, that's critical.
Thank you, ma'am.
Jim, we also went through a couple other numbers before you came in, just to get a picture of what we're gonna have in the next couple of years. So she had 11 open. There was 1 frozen position they took, and they moved it into 2 cadet positions. Then also, as far as looking at who's gonna possibly be retiring, there's 2 in the drop now. There's 1 potentially in the drop.
Eligible to go into.
One's
right.
eligible to go into the drop. So at least those we have on the radar coming up.
Just another correction, the
And
four
one
four
officer
frozen,
from Virginia
and then 1 in addition.
is 4
Cut.
frozen,
So there's,
yeah.
so it wasn't one of the 4,
Yeah.
it was
It's
in
four
addition.
frozen.
It was in
Just
addition.
wanted to make sure that we, that's what's in the budget.
Yep.
If we wanted anything different, we have to adjust the budget.
Correct.
Anything else for this, on this?
I'm fine.
Okay. Anything else?
Were there any questions about our essential items list?
I had none.
Walk around.
We discussed Jim, we also discussed the vehicles.
Take them.
Well, we discussed that, but we also discussed we wanted to have a cycle, and we're on that cycle.
Right.
The issue we have is lead time. It takes so long to get the thing, and we always end up, because we're on fiscal, we always end up on the tail end of when everybody else has already got their stuff, so that adds to the
Copy
problem.
of the essential items list.
Yeah, where, is that on a page number?
I don't see it.
I don't have your book, so I'm not aware.
It's never historically been published in the budget book.
Okay.
It's a part of the process as it goes to the mayor, just as he uses
Okay.
it as a tool to see what he can get in there and not fund and what he can't fund.
Well,
We see the results of the
historically, what
CIP.
we've done is, this is what was proposed last year, this is what it ended up being, this is what was requested, this is what the mayor put in. And then I think that last one is what it all finishes up at. So is there,
It-
do you need us, you mentioned it, chief, do you need us to look at that? You can run out now. and
What
get
are-
For
through it.
example, no. Well, actually, no, the mounted unit was on our essential items list.
I'm sorry.
The mounted unit,
Mounted?
Yeah.
Okay.
so it was outside of our budgeted parameters, according to the budget notice, but,
And that's 109, you said, if
That
I
is
remember
correct.
correctly,
That is
based on the
correct.
number I wrote down,
that is correct.
for a startup,
Correct,
less the following years.
correct,
And that's for 2?
yes.
$190.
Yeah, 109.
109?
109,000.
Chief, is there any, use of the substations anymore?
For community meetings. And then any type of community initiative that we have.
I know the one in my district, every time I've gone to the meetings, there's been like 3 people, and they're always the same 3. Me, there's Tim, and one other lady.
Well,
That's
we've
it.
actually been up there at the, in the shopping center where Red Door is. We've
Yeah.
had, you know, quite a large turnout last summer. We're about to ramp that back up again with
Okay.
specific issues that we're working on. But again, you know, we were addressing the issue of, you know, theft of bicycles,
Yeah,
you know, the kids riding through on the bicycles and how we
the
were
bicycle
going to.
theft was a big thing back then.
It was, and not to say that we don't have them now, but it was
Yeah.
really
So,
huge.
nothing like
What year was that?
No, nothing like
Last
that
year.
year. That
Last year and the
was-
year before were just
About 2 to
tremendous.
3 years.
I would also, if you want, I don't know who you got in charge of the bicycle registration program, but they wanna, I would suggest dropping some off at retailers.
Yeah, we do. We actually, Kmart, Toys R Us, the bike shop in Salisbury, we even take them up to the one in, I believe we're taking them up to the one in Delmar, because it doesn't matter to us, you know.
Yeah, 1 year I
Just so we
stuck
get
them
them
on all
registered.
the bikes,
Walmart, yep,
yeah.
yeah. But, you know, that doesn't get them
Doesn't
to
get-
to fill out the
Yeah.
registration.
No, I mean, I try, whenever, when I got one going on, I try to recommend it to people to do it.
Yep, absolutely. No, I mean, that's
But
all I
as many
have.
as you sell, I'm sure I don't even touch a drop.
Chief,
Definitely not.
are any of the MOUs that have been
those
signed by
kids
the
are
mayor
so smart now, they
aiming
scratch the
to
numbers off.
have put a dent in the opioid issue?
Yeah, yes, actually, thank you for bringing that up. So I just had, I just looked at our numbers. I believe we are at 27 or 28 overdoses for the year, and it is we're almost through April. We're at 27 overdoses in February last year. So, you know, there's so many moving pieces with it. We've got the education and awareness going on for our youth. You know, we've got the outreach, the peer-to-peer outreach going on, which Safe Streets is now supporting one of those employees through the health department. And that peer-to-peer specialist must be in recovery themselves. So we're supporting the technology that individual needs. We're working with our partners in the narcotics task force who come right out as well to start that investigation when they can. But we're still struggling with it tremendously.
There's a plan out of Anne Arundel County where fire stations and police stations are now being used as safe havens for people to go
Yeah.
and begin the process of recovery. You know, sort of that, we're not here to judge you, you decided to come in.
Yep,
No questions asked.
No,
Right.
yeah.
right,
So I would, and I'll bring it up again when the
Sure.
chief office is here as well.
sure.
Yeah.
The only other thing I've written on my notes, if you would please, is in the last year I've gone through every one of the missing persons reports that have come up on the press releases that have come out, and only one of them literally wasn't home. Wasn't gone 24 hours and wasn't back within 24 hours. There's only been one. Now, I understand people come in and say that somebody's missing, but I'm gonna say to you what what we have dealt with for years and years is the feeling of being unsafe when we're not really unsafe. You know, the feeling of being scared of crime when crime is not actually here. And the reason I bring it up is because it takes about 6 seconds between when you send out that press release for every
Everybody.
media outlet to go, there's another missing person in Salisbury. And that is starting to grate really on my nerves. And I don't know what the law says about how long someone's gotta be gone, but when it's Sunday afternoon and that person's been missing from just before church Sunday morning, I'm not so sure it's necessary. And what I hear is, from my family is, what are all these missing people in Salisbury? Well, they're actually not actually missing. They're actually back with their family within a reasonable amount of
The
time.
problem that we have with that is, you know, a lot of our individuals are actually juveniles.
Runaways.
And it may be just the age that makes them, that's the critical factor that triggers that posting. unfortunate.
any way to say what happened? Because all you get is the cancel.
Yes, we
missing
do. We
person.
put that, yeah, we put that in there, that, there are no other critical factors other than the individual's age. We do put that in there.
No,
in
I mean
our
like
release.
once they're found. Because if we're gonna continue to put them in
That's a
there
good-
and make
that's a
people
good
think
idea.
that somebody's got these kids for 24 hours, when you find out mom was
So
mad at
would you
grandma
rather
was mad at, I
see
mean,
Returned home safe.
I left Camden,
Well, I've seen
Pennsylvania
it,
Avenue
I've seen
one
it
time.
where they've stated where
That may
they
not
have
be
been
reported,
found.
that's
Sure.
good news.
Yeah, I
Sure,
have.
we do,
Yeah,
we
I've
do.
seen it.
But sometimes I don't
They may
think
not.
the news is more,
They may
hey,
ignore it.
kid's missing,
That's it.
Yeah.
and then it's like, okay,
they're
they're
not
found.
interested in what,
And
in
they
the
don't care.
process.
I hear
They're
you.
not interested
Yeah.
I
in
know.
It's
your
not,
process,
it's
they're
not
not interested in how
news-
people feel.
newsworthy.
They realize that if they can put a missing child thing
Sure.
up there, that everybody's gonna click, because that's
Click
what
to
it is,
them.
Oh,
it's a
it's
click on their
Click
website.
and
Yes.
advertisements, and they
Yeah.
get paid per click,
Yeah.
and sometimes it all comes back to money.
And it does seem, to be honest with you, this particular batch over the last year, as I went through them, really does seem to be concentrated in that Doverdale, Middle Neck Drive, Moss Hill, that whole section in there. Is it, are kids going off on their bikes and going to grandmom's and not telling anybody, or are they?
Or a friend's house,
Well,
or.
a lot of times it's where parents, seriously, where parents are allowing children to come to their house and stay without parental
The other
permission.
parent.
Correct.
And they know that
Correct.
they're considered missing and will not report or tell the parent that the child is there. And the child's telling the story as if, oh, I'm being beat, or my
Right.
mother's not letting me do what I wanna do, so they find a place where they can basically do what they want to do, so they stay there.
Okay, it's very frustrating that only
Well, maybe-
really one of them went any longer than 24 hours over the last year. And I think it just sends some sort
I
of
don't, and
signal.
my sense is that's not the case, because we've had multiples where they've gone more than 24 hours, or even more
'cause
than
I
8
had one
hours,
That was
It's-
gone more than 24 hours.
It's frustrating at best. Where we excel is, working with our partners on it, and
But
working
for the most
with-
part, is it just, I've gone to somebody's house
and they
they're
typically
people-
return within the next day or so.
But you can't,
Yes.
but I understand what
So
she's doing too, because you can't just say that the child's not missing, because you don't know him. With the things that are going on today, such
Right.
as sex
have-
trafficking and all that kind of stuff, you have to be cautious.
I met with a family
Yeah, but
recently
I'm not sure
that,
whether or not what
yeah.
we're doing is sending a message that that's happening here, because we're not telling anybody what the real end product was. I went to Barbara's house, and Barbara didn't pick me by the scruff of the neck and take me back to Pennsylvania Avenue up the street and go, I don't care if you're having a
Can't
problem with
stand
your mother,
violence
you're
like
going
that.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it's,
What would that
again,
press
it's the
release
fear
look
of being
like?
fear, the fear of fear.
Yeah.
I mean, I can figure, I suppose we can look towards figuring something out there, but how can you tell when, okay,
When it doesn't
Barbara's
reach
going
that.
this is the 6th time she's been missing, and even social media fans will say, oh, again, they're recognizing it.
But
But-
also, the other aspect of it is, if you have a child that's being physically abused, and then you get into a whole nother,
Yeah.
The problem is some of them are not being
I mean,
disciplined.
maybe if it's the
well, that's
the ones
the other,
that,
yeah.
the serial runaways, I mean, do we get child services involved?
We do.
To,
We do.
to get,
Yes,
We do.
see what's going on?
Right.
'Cause there's
Take a
root
look at the whole
cause there.
picture. Sure.
I just went through it, so, yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did it one time, missed my school bus, and I paid for it when I got home.
Oh, yeah, but see, but that's the problem now. A lot of them are not being disciplined
We
in
know.
any kind of way, and then when you do discipline them,
I didn't do that again.
they rebuttal against you because you are disciplining.
Yeah.
So they do run away, because they don't want to be disciplined.
Okay, anything else for the chief?
No, ma'am.
The only thing I would say is that I wasn't aware of that change. I thought that that other position was one of the 4 frozen, so that is gonna impact us. But maybe it'll be a positive impact. I believe that it was one of the 4 that was unfrozen. So that's
Chief,
one
none of
less.
this other stuff is in here because we're not actually looking at the 980-page one, like,
No,
you know.
But
But
we,
you're good with vests, cameras, armor, all that other stuff that we used to go through. I don't wanna go through boots, I don't wanna go through socks, I don't wanna go through patches. But some of that stuff that's come through with grants and stuff.
But they're
like that.
replacing the patches for me.
That's done.
Yeah, it's
I
done.
believe I have the new patch right here. It's already done, already taken care
It's
of.
done, taken care of, yeah.
Yes, and the mayor has funded from the essential items list that we looked at and what we needed, That is included in this budget here. It was just in order to accomplish some of the other priorities, not necessarily saying that mounted is not a high priority, but we had to make some financial decisions this year in order to accomplish just what you're saying with vests and, you know, a number of other things. So,
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
Appreciate it very much.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We are going to get lunch. Is it?
Chief. Yes, it's here.
Okay, so we can go offline now. Keith, you all right?